Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Faisel Sayed,
And I'm Dr. Dan McCarter.
and you're listening to Faisel and Friends, where we believe access to primary care is a right, not a privilege. Today, we're talking to Dr. Tom Hustead from the Referent Group about finding the leader within. Let's dive right in. Dr. Dan, good to see you. Dr. Hustead, good to see you.
Good to see you both.
Welcome, and thank you so much for taking time out to join us on this podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, so Dr. Hustead, I'd love to know why you pursued medicine.
That's actually probably not your typical answer, quite honestly. I went to West Point, United States Military Academy back in 1989, and after a year there, a good friend of mine who was older than me was in medical school, had done the similar type of path, and I thought, I don't fire a weapon very good, so I probably shouldn't go into the infantry. So, and I kind of like this medicine thing, and I want to serve, and it seems to match. And quite honestly, that's when I decided I think I want to pursue this medicine. I don't have medicine in our family. Had never really considered it when I entered the academy, but I got excited about it, and it was the best decision I ever made.
Wow. And you're trained in family medicine. So why family medicine? I mean, you could do any residency. I mean, what was it about family medicine that drew you to family medicine?
I'm the type of person that gets bored with the same thing every single day. After my rotation in family medicine, I loved the variety. I loved the chance to deliver a baby one day, take care of a geriatric patient the next day, see the kids and the parents at the same time. I'm very relational. So for me, the kind of continuity and the relationship and delivering baby and watching them grow and taking care of their grandparents, all that excited me, and so I just fell in love with family medicine.
Yeah, it really resonates with most of us in family medicine, doesn't it? Like being able to treat the patient, and even if you're not treating the family members, but just the relationship that you have with the family, the willingness to be able to partner with the family to help the patients.
Right, right, exactly.
Well, super. So after completing your family medicine training, and I'd love for you to share how did you end up getting into this path of training physicians, training leaders, becoming like the concept of finding the leader within? Like, where did that come from?
Well, it certainly didn't start right away. I started at West Point, and then I went through I went to Case Western for medical school, so civilian practice, civilian medical school, but a military residency program. Although it was focused mostly on being a great physician, not on leadership necessarily. But I spent 24 years in Army medicine, and I had an opportunity at multiple levels to lead, whether that was at a clinic level or a service level or at even department level with a residency program as a department chair or even as a commander CEO of a NATO healthcare facility in Belgium. And
Wow.
and in there I also had the opportunity to be um, a recruiter, kind of the physician recruiter for all of Army medicine across the nation and help share the Army medicine story. And what I realized doing that was I used leadership as a way to get into different programs, talk to residents and medical students, share what it was like to be a leader in medicine, and it resonated. And it was the things that I talked about. It was almost as if uh, these not just the medical students and residents, but also even the faculty. Like, what is this manna you provide for us? So this is I've never heard this before because as doctors, so often it's you're the doctor, you tell people what to do, they do it because you're the doctor. And if you have to yell and scream, you yell and scream and you do whatever. And that's kind of how we're trained. Even in the military, it's kind of like, hey, you're the most senior person, you're the doctor, whatever, people should listen to you. And leadership is not about a title or about authority. It's about how do you influence people? And it's very different than just telling them what to do or in a position. So, kind of this long story of as I started to wind down my military career and get out of Army medicine, I talking to a friend of mine, I was like, hey, medicine needs leaders. We need physician leaders to engage with our executives and our nurses and be a part of changing the narrative of the culture and experience and environment in which we work. And so we need to get out there and train leaders in a different way. So as I got out of the military and I became actually a primary care doc, family medicine doc here in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, I was the chief medical officer for the medical group for Hardin Memorial Health at the time. We started a company called the Referent Group to do just that. How can we reach and influence executives in medicine to invest in their doctors and leaders together so that we can change the way it's done? And it's just been super exciting to watch. I will say that, one thing that I can distinctly remember, I went to a global leadership summit, which is truly a worldwide leadership summit run out of Willow Creek up in Chicago that reaches over 500,000 people across the world.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I remember walking out. This was the summer of 2017. I remember walking out of that, walking across the parking lot with my best friends, and said, God is calling us to change medicine by teaching physicians and the people they work with how to lead in a different way. And I've been obedient to that call ever since, at least trying to be.
Wow, that is so incredibly inspirational. And we hear, you'll hear from political people, hey, you got to increase access. And we commonly come across this. Like the goal needs to be to increase access to care. You hear from doctors and nurses, we talk about it all the time. Doctors and nurses need more time. But even if you increased access, and even if you give doctors and nurses the time, just to assume that they'll know what to do with a person who's resistant, anybody, any member of your team, could be a doctor, could be a nurse, could be a medical assistant, even the patients, how to engage with those different populations of people. That training almost matters more, doesn't it?
I think so. I mean, how can we, even to having this discussion with the value based care and some of these different ways that we're doing primary care, direct primary care, wherever those things are, physicians aren't just leading within a healthcare organization, they're learning how to lead patients and influence patients in a way that improves outcomes and not just a fee for service. We see them, we grind them, we go through this thing, which is killing our physicians and burning them out. And if we can change that narrative so it becomes, how do I influence patients to be better? How do I create an environment with which I work in, the way I treat the people we work with, creating teams that work together and trust and want to and perform at higher levels and enjoy coming to work and working for each other and want to see each other succeed. Man, that's a whole different way to show up at work in the day, and approach your patient care, both with your staff and with your patients.
So I've got a question for you. When it comes to leadership, is it more important to tell people the right things to do or to listen to what they have to say?
I will, it's a Doctor. That's an excellent question, particularly for the way that we approach leadership development. We really never tell people how to lead, and we say that from the very beginning. We are not going to get these bullets on how to lead. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're going to ask you who you are. We'll develop a process for you to figure out who you are as a leader. What are your core values? What are your experiences in life that you can reflect on, that you draw from, that influence the way you show up to work each day? Um, and once you can figure out who you are going forward, then you as the leader can start to do the same for the other people that you lead. Um, we actually use a quote by Warren Bettis, who wrote the book on becoming a leader, and we use it every time. It's probably one of the most important quotes we use. We use at the very beginning when we're talking to anybody is, people become leaders the moment they decide for themselves how to be. And when we decide for ourselves how to be, and we know how we're going to show up to work, and we know how, then we can start to look at how can we help others show up as leaders and set an environment where they can thrive and succeed. Um, and so, getting back to your initial question, we would never say tell you how to do it. We'd always say, let's ask what you're thinking and how we can hear from you to help you get there. And that would be no different with a patient, correct? I mean, if we really
Yeah.
want to get patient change we've got to ask them, what's going on in your life? How can I help you get to where you want to go, not just tell you where you need to go?